I'd like to first give a shout out to the radio TV program for helping present this presentation to you in this format today. So let's get started. So objectives for today, we're first going to talk about education costs as a whole and the different methods of paying for college education. And then I want to cover planning for app completion. A common challenge that we have with seniors is getting busy, especially during the height of scholarship application season and missing deadlines, and we don't want to do that. We're going to talk about where to look for scholarships of all kinds, and then discuss application tips to help you present a better application to scholarship review committees. So first, let's talk about how much education costs. So Ball State and IUPUI are our two most popular educational institutions for seniors to attend after high school. So Ball State's current cost of attendance, which includes tuition and fees, books, room and board, and additional expenses, is currently $24,638 a year. And so I want to emphasize that that amount is for 1 year only, and a bachelor's degree, commonly called 4-year degree, is taking that amount times 4. So we're getting close to $100,000 to earn a 4-year bachelor's degree college education. So at the chart below, that's IUPUI's cost of attendance for 1 year. And so let's break those costs down. So the tuition fees for IUPUI is currently $9,700 a year. And notice that that doesn't change whether you live on campus or where you live at home. It's the same fee. Books and supplies, $1,100 a year, same if you live at home or live on campus. Room and board is where there's some cost differences. So if you live on campus at IUPUI, it will cost $10,000 a year, and that includes a room, the place for you to sleep, and board, meaning including the meal plan. And then if you live at home, hopefully your parents have decided that they're not going to charge you anything, and that will be $0. So transportation expenses are also included in cost of attendance. If you live on campus, it's approximately $374 a year, and that would include a parking pass potentially, or bus fees if you just want to go into town. If you live at home, there's going to be higher costs for that because you have to drive to campus every day. So they approximate those costs at almost $2,000 a year. So gas and insurance and wear and tear on your vehicle is included in that. And then personal expenses include things like going out to eat, or buying shampoos and everything that it costs to kind of just live. They approximate that at approximately $2,100. So the breakdown would be a cost for 1 year at IUPUI if you live on campus is going to be $23,304. And then if you live at home, the costs are reduced fairly significantly down to $14,864. And so remember, a 4-year degree is 4 times that amount. So to earn a 4-year degree at IUPUI, we're talking about $93,000. And I want every senior to be thinking of that amount when they think about how to pay for their college expenses, and how important it is to pay attention to all the resources available to pay for college. And I'll be referencing a lot the 4-year degree, but many of these factors also apply to a 2-year degree and vocational school. So it's still important to take this information into consideration no matter what your education options are after high school. So how people typically pay for college expenses is in multiple forms. First of all, in my opinion and many others, the most important application to complete is the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And the website where that can be found is shown. This application is how students qualify for any kind of federal or state aid. And it's the only way to qualify for student loans. And many scholarships require this information to also be sent. So we hear a lot that students do not want to complete a FAFSA because they don't think that they're going to get anything, that their parents make too much money. And that may turn out to be true, but you won't know until you submit it. And I will tell you that families have to make a significant amount of money before they're disqualified from any kind of grant program, and student loans are usually offered to most people regardless of income, or at least if the parents don't make a significant amount of money. So there's really nothing lost if this is submitted. So that's why we strongly encourage people to submit it. Another thing that I just want to point out is that it is very unlikely that students will win a, quote, full ride scholarship. We will have many students, even our highest performers, assume that they're going to win a full ride scholarship. And we have very few students that do that, and I can't really recall at this moment in time the last time we had that happen. Few students also get what I would call big money scholarships, meaning $5,000 plus scholarships. Most scholarships are $500, $250, maybe $1,000. And so it's really important to know that if you're trying to chip away at your college expenses, students need to apply for as many scholarships as possible. So in that realm, it's important to know that because most people don't win a lot of, quote, big money scholarships, you have to do multiple things to get college expenses taken care of. And typically, expenses for college are paid for via a combination of the following things: grants, scholarships, loans, and then what's called out-of-pocket funds, so money that families have in the bank. So this graphic is what is on our WeBo website, and I'll show you where to find information. Grants, scholarships, loans, out-of-pocket funds, and this just describes what's on there, and then the different kinds of scholarships: merit, need, and then personal interest, are the things that we're going to cover in more detail. So for grants, these are based on FAFSA information. So if a student wants to be considered for grants, which are monies that typically do not have to be paid back, which is the best kind of money to get, students need to submit a FAFSA. Grants are typically awarded from the state or federal government, and most grants are offered to low-income students. Now, I say low income, but it's also very important to note that what we might consider, or what you might consider low income, is not what the federal government or university considers low income. So you are strongly encouraged to apply for absolutely everything, and then let the organization itself decide if they consider you low income or not. So also, grants are given more and more based on high needs fields. So right now there's a national teacher shortage, and there's a grant program called the Teach Grant, where if a student is studying education specifically focused on STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, or math, or special education, there's a grant program. That money does not have to be paid back as long as the student actually finishes their degree in education and works in education. And that has typically been about $5,000 grant a year, which is pretty significant. So when it comes to scholarships, there's different types of scholarships. Merit-based means academic, based on grades, information from a transcript. Merit-based scholarships typically come from the college or university directly, based on the high school transcript that the student requests us to send, and information from the college application that the student has submitted for review. Most of the time, merit-based scholarships do not require a separate application. They just look at the college admission application and the high school transcript and make their decision based on academic merit. So that means grade point average, test scores, class rank, course offerings. That kind of information is what's a factor into merit-based scholarships. However, I have learned recently that some merit-based scholarships are taking FAFSA information into consideration. So again, it is really important to at least have a FAFSA on file, just to make sure that a student is maximizing all opportunities to earn financial aid to help pay for school. The next type of scholarship is financial or need-based scholarships. These typically come from the state and federal government based on the FAFSA information and the financial situation of the student and the student's family. So the FAFSA requires parental income, and then the federal government has a formula that they use to decide how much financial need a family has. Now again, what the student might consider financial need is not what the government considers financial need. So it's just important to make sure all bases are covered and a FAFSA is submitted, and then make those decisions on what is available to you. So most financial need-based scholarships don't require a separate application, except for the already submitted college admission application, the high school transcript that we sent, and a FAFSA. So those three things are typically all that's required to earn a financial scholarship. So personal interest scholarships are what students are most familiar with. So these typically come from national, state, and local organizations like Coca-Cola Company, the local organization like the Thorntown Businessmen. These do pretty much always require some sort of separate application because these are not typically related to the university in question at all. You can find these through like a bank or some sort of store that a student or parent frequents, an employer. Personal interest scholarships typically ask for certain majors. So for Witham Hospital, for example, those scholarships typically ask for a student to be pursuing a career in healthcare to be eligible to apply. Kiwanis typically asks for community service experience. Thorntown Businessmen specifically reports vocational students or some sort of hands-on skilled trade career. The Sheriff's Association wants to support students studying criminal justice, and Purdue Club of Boone County requires that a student attend a Boone County high school and attend Purdue specifically. So personal interest scholarships are what students are typically more familiar with when it comes to applications, but they have differing requirements. So let's talk about student loans. So the government loans require a FAFSA. So it's important to note that there are government subsidized loans and supported loans that the federal government issues, and then you can also get a private student loan from your personal bank. And the government loans typically have a much lower interest rate, and so you're strongly encouraged that if you need a student loan to take it out directly from the federal government, if at all possible. But no matter what, you have to have a FAFSA on file to be able to get a government student loan. So student loans get a bad rap, and but sometimes they're just absolutely necessary to be able to afford a college education. And so if you want the job of your dreams, you know that you need that specific form of education. Student loan is the only way to get there. So it's just important to plan in advance for how you're going to pay that money back and to know how much student loan money you can reasonably take out and be able to pay back. So the average American student in our country has $35,000 in student loan debt. Now, it says after exiting education. It's also important to note that some students don't finish school. And if you take out this kind of student loan power and don't get your college degree, that may hurt you even more into the future. So I strongly encourage that if you take out student loans, that's fine if you need it. Just make sure that you finish your education so that you have better opportunities to pay that money back. If you were a student that did take out $35,000 in student loans, that would translate at the current interest rate to about $350 a month over 10 years. So this is a long-term commitment that a student gets into when they take out student loans. So let's just talk briefly about budgeting and how student loans can come in to affect a person's budget. So this is just a sample budget, including the core expenses for what you need to survive. So housing, let's say you get an apartment and it's $750 a month. You have a car payment, you have to buy food, pay electric and gas, you need a phone, internet, you need some clothes, you have to pay for insurance for car, your home. With this budget, and those costs are pretty relevant to today, that would cost $1,950 a month just in living expenses. Note that there is absolutely nothing fun on that. And if you graduate school and an income of $32,000 a year, you would end up bringing home approximately $2,000 after taxes. That only leaves $50. So let's say you do go to school for education. If you started out at a school like Webo, you're making about $36,000 a year. So after taxes, you're not bringing in much more money than $2,000. $50 is not enough to pay your $350 student loan payment, and you don't have enough to do anything fun, to go out to eat, hang out with your friends, extra gas money to drive around somewhere, go on vacations, none of that. So when it comes to a student deciding how many student loans they need to take out, you also have to think about what kind of job you're going to get after you graduate, and then what kind of money that job is going to get you, and is it worth taking out that student loan. There's a thing called return on investment, meaning how much money you put in compared to what you're going to get out. And it's very important for students to think about that now so that they're making the best financial management decisions that they can at this point. So we've talked about how important it is that students think about financial management compared to student loans, applying for scholarships, and trying to get that approximate $100,000 that it costs for a four-year education down to a reasonable amount. So where can you find some scholarships? Where do you get started? So before fall break, I sent out the very first Webo Senior Scholarship newsletter. And I send those out via Canvas and school email address, and it goes home to parents as well. So give me a second to bring up that newsletter, and I will show you how to find it in case you deleted it via Canvas, or you just can't find it anymore. So this is the school website, and to find anything guidance related, you're going to click on the guidance tab. And then if you've never been here, welcome. This is our guidance website. You're going to scroll down to how can I pay for college? And here are some general financial information. And so some things to point out here. One, under the scholarships section, you will see these different websites. These are the national search engines that Webo supports that are considered credible. So you are welcome to click on any of these and research some scholarships. But specifically, wanted to point out where the newsletter is. So right here, scholarship newsletter. This is the newsletter that I sent out before fall break. And the very first page will always have some sort of article that's relevant to seniors. So the first article was about the FAFSA. Again, what I consider the most important application of them all. The next pages are all the scholarship listings. So it will always have the title of the scholarship, the due date of the scholarship, and then a short description of what the scholarship requires. So when you get this scholarship, you read the front articles, learn some information that you may need to know, and then you're going to scroll through here, and what I want you to do is look at the name and the due date, and then give a quick scan of the description and see if that scholarship applies to you. So for this very first one, the Heisman, so it's expired already, but you read it and go, oh, open to senior athletes. Okay, so if you're not an athlete, then you know you can just skip it and move on to the Coke scholarship. But if you are an athlete, then you should be strongly encouraged to actually click on the link, go to that website, and complete the information. Now, something to point out is this due date that you see here is a received by due date. So a student that tries to go here on October 29th at 11:59 is going to be hurting because they only have 1 minute to get that submitted. If it's a paper application that has to come back to me, then let's see, this Joey Strong Memorial, for example. If you turn it into me on February 21st, it's too late because I have to get that in the mail before then so it can be received by February 21st. So it's always important to make sure that you bring me any paper scholarship applications or that you submit any digital scholarship applications before the due date as early as possible. So, um, so also underneath the Western Boone information, we've shown you the guidance website, where the guidance office also has paper applications. So for example, that Joey Strong Memorial Scholarship that I mentioned, that is a paper application. We do have it available online, but then on our guidance website. But if you would prefer the paper application, we have a scholarship drawer in our office where everything's put in there via alphabetical order, and a student can just scroll to the J's and find a copy of the paper application and then take that home and complete it. So if you ever see one that's on paper, please visit us and get a copy of it. So on local scholarship websites, the Western Boone Education Foundation typically gives out approximately $10,000 a year to WeBo students only. So that's a decent chunk of money. And there are currently 11 scholarships that the foundation awards. That site we will discuss in the future and how specifically to use it. That site does not open until either December, right before Christmas break, or January when we return. So we'll cover that later. The Community Foundation of Boone County gives approximately $34,000 a year to our students, and so that is a lot of money. So what I always do is I Google Community Foundation of Boone County. Google will be a great friend to you in your scholarship search process. So voila, this is the Community Foundation of Boone County website. When you go here, you're going to go to the Scholarships tab and then click on Community Foundation, the CFBC Scholarships. And the next thing you're going to click on is over here on the right where it says Western Boone. This will then bring up a chart, a little table, that lists all of the scholarships through the Community Foundation that are eligible for WeBo students. So for example, the Bobby Highsong Memorial Scholarship is, you have to have a 2.0 GPA, you have to be studying an ag-related field, and it's for WeBo kids only. So that's cool. The next one, the Boone County Ag Scholarship, also goes to ag-related careers, but you'll see that any Boone County student can apply. So that one's definitely more competitive, but it's also a lot more money. So you can go to this website right now and actually review these requirements and determine which ones you want to apply for. However, currently they're not supposed to open until December 2nd. So there is still some time before you can actually apply, but I would encourage you to go ahead and review them. And that way you can figure out if you need any recommendation letters or what kinds of essays you're going to have to write and stuff like that. But again, this is about $30,000+ a year that WeBo kids receive, so this is a significant source of money for our students. So on our guidance website and on the scholarship newsletter, it lists national scholarship search engines. So you are definitely recommended to review those and see if you are eligible for any of those scholarships. Have note that they will obviously receive more applications because they're open to a broader pool, but typically they also have more money available to them and give multiple scholarships. So you're still strongly recommended to search for scholarships on those sites. And like I said, Google is going to be a great friend. Personal and professional scholarships, you can go to Google and say cosmetology scholarships and just see what comes up. Fashion design, engineering, whatever the case may be. You always want to be very cognizant if it's a reliable source, but you can at least get some general information via that search engine. And if you all ever have any questions about something, please let us know. A note on the scholarship search newsletter, says do not pay for anything. And you are strongly, strongly encouraged to never pay for anything scholarship related. It makes 0 sense to pay money to get money like that. But Google can be a good friend. So some application tips, like how to make your applications better. Most of these scholarships have deadlines in January, February, and March. So there are scholarships available now, but we will get significantly more in the next couple of months. So it is really important that you stay on top of this process if you want to try to maximize how much money you can get. Something that you can do to help make your application stand out is to go ahead and create a typed resume that lists what your goals are, the education that you currently have, what your activities are, if you have a job, and any awards or special recognitions items that you have. Anything that would help make you stand out as a potential scholarship applicant. If you search for scholarships, especially via the national search engines, you will likely have to create an account. And so my advice would be, if you have an email address that you only check for scholarships or certain things, I would use that, just because you're going to get a lot of emails. However, if you don't, then that's fine. You just may have to unsubscribe from different listservs and stuff over time. Another tip, when writing an essay, save them for future scholarships. Pretty much every scholarship, or the vast majority of scholarships, will ask you to write some sort of statement or essay describing your future goals and why you want to get into that career. If you already have that typed, it's so much easier to just edit it and resubmit versus retyping that over and over again. Another tip, please give your recommenders 2 weeks to write the best recommendation letter that they can. I am happy to write a letter if you only give me a day's notice. However, I will not promise that it'll be very good. So something else that you can do to help make those recommendation letters better is to take that typed resume that you already have and give it to your recommender. Personally, I may know a student fairly well, but only in a certain area. I may not know that they are that just got their Eagle Scout, for example. But that is something super cool that I would love to put in my recommendation letter. I just didn't know that because that wasn't a part of our previous conversations. So those kinds of things are also very helpful to recommenders when writing a letter. I would also strongly encourage you to have somebody proofread your essays. Even the smallest error can really stand out in a pool of applicants. So we are happy to help you with that and maybe catch some errors that maybe you just couldn't quite catch upon multiple reads. If an application can be typed, please do so. Even people with the best handwriting, sometimes it's hard to read. So sometimes you'll have a digital copy of an application and you can copy and paste it into Word and then type your responses. That's perfect. But if you absolutely can't type it, please use black ink when submitting applications. There have been times where a student will submit something in pencil and I will give it right back to them. And I will tell you that there have been multiple scholarship review committees that have told me that they throw out pencil applications. If somebody submits one in pencil, they'll just throw it right out. So please don't do that. Write it in black ink if you have to, and then take your time to make it legible. Use proper grammar and punctuation. That seems obvious, but you may be surprised. Use a thesaurus minimally. So that may be pretty random. However, if you do not know the definition of the word and you just say, I'll just look up another word in the thesaurus because maybe I've used the same word multiple times in my essay, please don't. Typically, if a student needs a thesaurus to find a synonym, they don't exactly ever use that synonym in a sentence. So it doesn't sound right. And personally as a scholarship reader, I can usually pick out when a student has decided to use a thesaurus because the word doesn't actually fit into the sentence. And you don't want to do that. You want to sound like you really know what you're saying. Limit personal information in your scholarship essays. There's a fine line with wanting to communicate maybe a personal struggle you've had to face or a family situation or whatever the case may be, but when you share too much personal information, it becomes very awkward for the scholarship reader. So I would say if you have a personal story you want to share that you think really helps you stand out as an applicant, have somebody else read it. And we can tell you if we think it's appropriate or not for this particular application. So again, to reiterate, please submit any scholarships before the due date posted on the newsletter. Those are received by dates. That means they have to be put in the mail and received by the scholarship organization by that date. If you bring me a scholarship on the morning of if it's due, and I have to put it in the mail that day, it will not be received on time. So, and sometimes I will just tell students, I can't accept this anymore. You're going to have to do this on your own. If you see a scholarship and you're not sure exactly where to submit it, the best bet is it probably comes back to me, but please ask me before the due date if that's accurate or not. But most of the time that is typically the case, that paper applications will come back to me. And please remember that you are asking people for money. These people have no idea who you are. Most likely they have never met you, and they are judging you 100% based on what you've submitted in this application. Most of these scholarship organizations are privately funded. These people are going out and doing things like bake sales and other types of fundraisers to help support kids, especially WeBo kids, and we want to make sure that we show them that we are exceptional students and they should support us. So be impressive in your applications and take them seriously. We in the guidance office are very happy to help you. So ask us if you have any questions. So what to do next? It is important that you discuss education expenses and your plan for paying for your expenses with your family as soon as possible. I'm always very surprised at how many seniors have never once talked to their family about how they're actually going to pay for college, and have always just assumed that it would be taken care of. And then when it comes to second semester senior year, when the financial bills actually start to come out, students and families are really surprised and don't know how to proceed from there. So it's important to go home and talk to family and see what the plans are so that you can just make sure that you have a good plan in place for how you're going to pay for these expenses. If you haven't already completed a FAFSA, please do so. So I've covered it many times during this presentation about how important it is. The FAFSA itself is not actually due in Indiana until April 15th. However, the state of Indiana has limited funds available for state and federal aid. So the sooner you get it in, the better off you are. So please do that. Set a plan for searching and applying for scholarships. I typically advise setting aside at least 1 hour per week for the searching and completion steps. So you'll get the newsletter out. Usually I say Sunday sometimes is usually free time for kids after church or whatever. So set aside an hour, get the newsletter out, quickly scan the newsletter, set aside, put them in due date order, and then just start working on them. If you commit more than 1 hour a week, typically students will start getting overwhelmed, and we don't want that. We want you to get stuff done, but not make it become a burden. So that is the advice on that. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Canvas is great. I get a lot of messages while I'm sitting at my desk doing some other tasks, so I'm happy to respond to you as quickly as possible. You are totally welcome to come see me in guidance. If you are welcome to talk to either me or Mrs. Hill about anything regarding anything scholarship related, we are happy to help you. We do not want you to miss any deadlines or just not ask questions and then miss something very important. So please get a hold of us. I appreciate, again, Radio TV helping us out. Thank you so much for your time. And again, please let us know if you have any questions. Have a great day.